Hello, friends. I am so excited for you to meet my new guest. She is just coming out of the spiritual closet. She's a brilliant intuitive. I know she will deny it to the ground, but she is just so amazing. And we are going to talk about starseeds, which is one of her favorite topics to talk about and geek out to. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Miss Allie Wright. Hi, Allie.
Hi. I'm so excited to be here.
So I kind of started off all of these Breath of Life conversations as very similar. I kind of ask people, what is it that you do? Who are you? What is it that you want us to know about you?
Well, I think part of that is I'm still discovering that for myself, right? I would say I'm like smack into this like spiritual awakening. It really kind of started last year. You know, I've always had like I've obviously been drawn to the spirituality. I've gone to psychics my whole life. You know, always believed in like, there has to be more than just this, or, you know, as a kid, I would look up into the stars and be like, constantly in wonderment, right? Like, what else is out there? There's no way it's just us. And so then this past year, something clicked and I went like down the rabbit hole, and it's just been like this onion unfolding as it goes, right? So, you know, things that when I first got into this and I would, you know, watch somebody on Instagram and be like, oh yeah, no, that's way too far. Like, no, I can't go in that. And then now I'm like, oh yeah, that is real. I'm like, so it's like this evolution of like, even just who I am. And I feel like I'm still definitely in it, in discovering, you know, where I want to go with this, how I want to, you know, help people or just teach people, right? So I'm still very, very much in it and discovering.
See, I feel like that's like the best place to be, though. I think the discovery of, you know, how you're going to use it, how it's transforming your life. And I think that's like a really, I think that's the meat and potatoes of it, right? Like how you are being changed by the knowledge that you're discovering and unfolding, and you're discovering you. Yeah. So it's so beautiful. It's just one more step on the journey.
Oh yeah, it's amazing how like it's not just spirituality, right? It's not just like this eye-opening. It has changed me fundamentally. And at times that was like, whoa, what's going on? Like, do I want to change? And I was holding on to the old me, and you know, it makes people around you uncomfortable too, right? Because you're starting to change the narrative of who you are, but it's also like exciting and exhilarating, right? And so I want to know all. I want to know everything. Like, it's this never ending tap of knowledge. And I just want to know it all.
Right. Mm-hmm. So part of your discovery has been that you're a starseed.
Yeah.
So can you walk me through that discovery? Can you like tell me about like how you found that out and all of that?
Yeah. So during this kind of, you know, awakening, like I heard about spirit guides, and you know, I was like, I want to know who my spirit guide is. And it was just like, I wanted somebody just to tell me, right? Like, just tell me who it is, right? And it just wasn't happening. And so I started taking like the courses and in meditations on how you meet your spirit guide. And all of a sudden this one time, like I did a meditation on how to meet your spirit guide. And, you know, I felt this presence, in my meditation and it just felt, I couldn't see the spirit guide, I could just feel, and it just felt like this person, it was a male, very tall and very stoic and very serious. And so I was kind of like, okay, just sitting with that. And I kept kind of going back and just, again, sitting in that presence. I couldn't see anything. I could see the scenery around me, but I couldn't see my actual spirit guide. And it wasn't until I started getting like this, just a knowing that I was like, I feel like he's a Palladian. And then I would be like, nah, like why would I have a Palladian like spirit guide? It's like, honey, you're not that important. Like, get over yourself. But it just like, and I didn't even want to say it to anybody like that obviously was into this as well, because I was just like, that's just no. And then I went to my yearly psychic visit that my trusted psychic medium and that I've gone to for years. And, we've never talked about this stuff like Palladians, anything. It was always just that, oh, what am I going to do for my career? It was just that surface level, right? I've never heard her talk about starseeds, Palladians, nothing. And I started to open up and I said, I have a feeling I know who my spirit guide is. Do you know? And I just I didn't want to tell her because I wasn't going to tell her. And
Right.
all of a sudden, all of a sudden she's like, oh, I see him. He's right beside you. He's a Palladian. And I almost like I tell you, it was just like my breath was taken out of me because I was like, first off, I had no idea she knew anything about Palladians or, extraterrestrial. And the fact that I was right, that my gut instinct was right. And that just kind of like blew everything up, because then I was like, I need to know everything about Palladians. And then it just started with like, what are these other star seeds? And, what is going on out there that's been going on forever and that I want to know about, right? So that's kind of how I got started on that deep dive on the journey.
So, and that you touched on the validation piece, and that is, I feel like, so crucial for us as people who are light workers, who are energy workers, who are intuitives, that needing to know that you're not crazy. And I say this in almost every one of my podcasts, my Breath of Life conversations, that is the thing that we get constantly told, or is like programmed into us, that we have to fight so hard that we're not crazy. And this idea of that there's intelligent life out there, that we are able to commune with them, channel with them, get guidance from them, is something that we as a global society in general don't actually pay too much attention to. Of course, there's the conspiracy theories and there's all the things, right? But there's very little of actual, like, we're going to take this seriously and we're going to actually do the work. We're actually going to figure out what it is that we can do. And I think now we're seeing more and more of people not only starting to take it seriously, as in like, oh yeah, like they exist. Like, I think we're still on this like weird cusp of like, is it a conspiracy theory? Is the government and militaries across the world and various countries just trying to keep, it secret? Have they, got some buried down in a dark, deep basement in the desert? And being like, no, like this is like real. And like, there's, they're different from us, but not really. Like they've got their dualities just the way that we do. But I'm seeing more this, there's that section of it, but there's also the section of like, we are starseeds. We used to be that, like, this understanding of like, we are souls, not just humans. And
absolutely. This is just our vessel right now. Right.
Yes.
And I truly believe I've lived in many different vessels, right? My soul, my essence has lived in many different vessels, and that we're not limited to this. And it's funny because like the more I kind of dig into this, like, it's crazy to think that we would be the only living species on a planet in this infinite galaxy. Like that is just absurd to me, always has been, even before I got into this rabbit hole of knowledge. There's just no way. And, you know, I do think that the narrative has been programmed into us to fear the outside that we don't know, right?
100%.
But we're neighbors. Like
Yes.
it's no different to me not knowing the Japanese culture because I've never been there, right?
Yes.
And somebody looks different than me, but we're neighbors, right? Like we all live in this planet, we all have different ideas, we all look different, but we're neighbors. So that's no difference that there's how many planets out there that have how many different, you know, civilizations. And it's just like, they're coming in to say hi, but the narrative is, yeah. And it's like, but the narrative is to fear that because what we don't know, we fear.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the different types of starseeds. So you mentioned Palladians. Have you found that you've lived in any other type of starseed tribe? Or has your soul really just dug into the Palladian tribe of the universe?
It definitely dug into the Palladian, and I you know, I kind of like for a while there was just like, okay, I got this one guide. I'm done. I'm very loyal. You're my person. We're done.
You guys, and like she was not happy about it for the longest time. She was very upset that this one guide of hers was like totally counter to who she is as an individual.
I was mad at my guide. I'm like, he's very serious, stoic, and I was like, I am not that at all, right? And I would see other people, like their guides would be funny, and I was like, that's me, I want that. And but then I would always be like, no, like his, like, you know, his knowledge and advice and stuff that comes through from him is so serious. But you know what, now I love it because I joke about it and I make fun of him, and you know, because that's just like, okay, you're just being very serious right now. But I finally did, because I was getting, as you know, I was having spirits trying to get my attention. And so I finally was like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask if I have a guide that helps with mediumship. And sure enough, I had a female come forward, and, you know, I could see her. She had the white hair, wearing white. And I was like, are you Palladian? Because she kind of seemed Palladian. And she was like, no, but I couldn't figure out what she was. And after the meditation, I just went like researching, because I was like, I know what you look like. I'm going to find you. And sure enough, like, it's just, you get those pings, right? Like you come across it and you're like, that is you. And so she's Arcturian. Is she? No, she's not Arcturian. She's, it's the one I can't say. Andromedan.
Oh,
Andromedan.
From the galaxy or from the constellation?
Constellation.
Got it.
And then at that same session or meditation, I also had a Arcturian come through. So again, I was just like, I couldn't tell, but I was like, I could see the image, and he was definitely more alien, like had the big eyes. Yes. And like the and I went searching for him, realized he's Arcturian. So I started to discover, okay, I've got different starseeds kind of guiding me. During one meditation with my council, because again, my council was kind of like I was like, what is going on here? Because it was just like, it seemed just like a bunch of aliens, like sitting across. And in one of my sessions, they kind of talked about that one of my purposes is like being a liaison for that. So not the Galactic Federation, but for the starseed type, right? So there's like a bunch that I would kind of connect with. So right now I'm in the discovery of like, where have I lived most of my lives? I feel like it's an Andromedan, but I'm still discovering that.
It's a really amazing, and there's, especially for us that are older souls that are light workers, that, you know, we've been all across the universe, and it's insane how many lives we've actually like lived, and what we've done, and how we've affected the world, and the world, the multiple worlds, and the universe in the universe. So for myself, the first one that I ever knew about was that I lived in the Andromeda galaxy.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't tell you, like, I don't, that, and because I'm not sure, I haven't like locked in yet on what they're called yet. I feel like people are more knowledgeable about the Andromedians from the constellation. So for anybody who's interested, and you probably are because you're watching this, there are, when somebody says Andromedians, they're more than likely talking about the constellation, but definitely ask, are you talking about constellation or galaxy? Whenever I talk about Andromedians, I'm pretty much 99% talking about the constellation, which of course then is not the life that I lived, or the lives that I've lived. And then I found out that I was a reptilian geneticist.
Wow.
People give reptilians a bad rap. Like one of my boxes now is like trying to get people to understand that even though these are higher densities beings than us and higher dimensional beings than us, and there is a difference in is that they still are souls, and souls have free will, they have choice. And so just because you have gotten to a place of higher density or higher dimension doesn't mean that you're not necessarily making bad choices. It means that you like intellectually understand that you're probably wrong, but like you don't care. Just like now. I mean, I think that there are people who, you know, believe that there are other people, whether it be other races, religion, whatever, and they're like, I don't like you. And that all comes from like your perspective. I mean, I think we also put starseeds, some of us, on this pedestal, and we put like going through the dimensions on a pedestal. And I'm still noodling on this, and like trying to, one of these days I'm gonna have to have just a purely like philosophical conversation about what it means to like go through and like ascend to various dimensions and densities, and discussing the difference. But really, like what I end up boiling it down to is that even starseeds, for, you know, as advanced in technology and understanding of the universe as they are, they still they can still, you know, downshift just like we can.
Absolutely.
You know,
it's all lessons.
Yes,
it's all lessons, right? Like you have to have the dark to see the light, right? Like there's always that duality, that you're not just always going to be on the light and be this evolved being. Like that's not learning your lessons, right? Exactly. So and I think, you know, any type of hierarchy, that's not what this is all about. This hierarchy is a 3D earth thing that we do, and that's right. And so the hierarchy, in the sense of like, oh, you know, I come from the 12th dimension or whatever, right? We've done all of them. We've all done all of them, and I'm in a 3D dimension right now, right? Like that does right? So even though it's like, say I come from a higher dimension, it's like this is all part of the learning. So there's no, I think that's where people do get tripped up. And I agree with the whole starseed, like I'm so enlightened. It's like, no, I'm like, you strip away all of this, you strip away, you know, the human amnesia, all of that stuff, I think what it is just, it's this love, right? It comes down to love. And, I don't feel like when there's pure love or anything like that, that there is ego, right?
Yes.
And that's, that, so I think with somebody like, so say if I was saying like, oh, I have these guides and they're just so enlightened and I've lived lives like this, that's my ego. That's
Yes.
my 3D ego. That is not, once you strip this away, that's not part of it. It's just not, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
I had just had a celestial soul reading from one of our soul sisters who told me that she actually used the term like hybrid, and I was like, yep, knew that one. And then it was like, so you lived on like Sirius B and you were like a keeper of the trees. And I was like, oh, great. And she's like, you also are like a part of like the Arcturian like council thing. Like you're supposed to like shake, like just shake stuff up, like just fuck shit up down here, like
You're like,
change all the
thanks.
things. And right. And so like when you said that of like, you have to like strip away and like get rid of the ego and all of that, like I feel like that really is like a part of like the mission now. Like I feel like, not only do I have to strip myself of my own ego, but like I literally have like a past lives and that where the reason why I came back here, why I decided to do Earth as often as I have, because in addition to that, like I've lived a crap ton of like human lives on this planet. And the entire time I've been doing nothing but like trying to advance society. And so it's amazing to me.
It is,
whether it's through like healing the consciousness, healing the human body, healing the consciousness, or like, dealing with revolutions, and various revolutions in the world. It's just, you feel like, you understand your purpose, right? Like, or like that, maybe not the purpose exactly, but understanding that you have one and like trying to figure it out. So that touches on something that I had wanted to ask you of, do you know your like, like purpose? Like, have you gotten anything from your guides about what your like starseed mission or purpose is?
So I've kind of gone deep diving into that a little bit. So, what I got was definitely kind of like that liaison between, the star seeds and this, but I also think that a big part of it is the collective enlightenment and raising the vibration, right? So like kind of going there, spreading the light and the love, right? And just really trying to hone in on that. Sometimes I'm like, holy, like, really? You're gonna send me here and give me human amnesia and then expect, like, it's one of these things where it's just like, you have your hands tied behind your back. It's not like you're coming with this mission and you have all the knowledge of everything. You are in a human body that has a human, like we are here living a life that we are experiencing. I can't live my life being like, oh, like this is my purpose and this is what I'm going to do. Like I'm also living a 3D life, a human life that deserves my attention as well. And so it's one of these things that it's just kind of like, damn, like, I think it's like the ultimate mission that you could have coming to Earth, right? Yes. Like it's such, it's a lot to navigate through. And I couldn't see any star seed or anybody coming here that doesn't have like a dual mission, a dual mission of evolving your own soul, because my goodness, the amount of learning I've done, self-reflection I've done, the things that I've had to push past, right? Like that's all the evolution of my soul, at the same time, just trying to raise the vibration of like starting in my household and just going outwards and outwards and outwards and sticking true to what I believe, which is, it's tough. right? Because you are right. Society, you know, many times I'll say, oh, my human brain is making me question myself, right? Like I find like I have these two sides where it's like, all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, 100% in it. And I can talk to you and I can talk to Mandy. I could talk, you know, I could talk to people and I'm like right in it. And then I'm on my own and all of a sudden my human brain's like, hey, like, is this really,
you sure
like,
you want to do this?
yeah, like you're sounding a little crazy, honey. And and so that it's just like you fight it, right? You fight it, right? Especially when you talk to somebody who's not awakened, right?
Oh my
like,
gosh.
that one, like I'll even be talking and my truth. And as I'm talking in my head, I'm like, you sound crazy. You sound batshit crazy. Right. So yeah.
Yeah. And so protecting your energy, I feel like, is, especially as a starseed, especially as somebody who knows that you've got this mission of like elevating the consciousness, like the protection, right,
So
is
much
so crucial,
and not
because
to be
that's
pulled
exactly what
down.
happens. Yes,
Yeah.
that
Like
is
I find I
exactly
get
what
sucked
happens.
in. And many times I'm like, hey, yeah, and I can recognize that. I will say I am full on 3D right now. Like I am just pulled, and I'm like, so many times I have to be like, no, you can't get pulled into this. Like, you know, like it's not like, oh, I know more than you, but it's like, no, you do have a higher perspective. You can like, I'll pull back many times and be like, let's look at this from a higher perspective, because, you know, it's so hard. And I also kind of feel like as a star seed, and I think I've struggled with this my whole life, and now I fully understand why, is like this sense of like, and I used to say I was naive. I was like, my goodness, you must be naive, honey, because I would be disappointed by people, right? They would break my heart many, many times, you know, and not break your heart in the sense of like, I don't want to be your friend, or just little things that I was like, how could somebody be so mean? Like, why would they even think to say that to hurt me? And I just, my whole life I've always like lived in this, like, no, like if there was a cure for cancer, we would know, like, because nobody ever could hold something like that back. It was always just this kind of like, where I called it naive. And I realized, I'm like, no, I think that's my star seed, you know, background, that it's more like, I can't believe all the stuff that's done out of love, like that people just don't do. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things, is to see how much hatred and how much that is out there, that I'm like, I struggle with that.
I absolutely hear you, and I agree. I was just talking to my family the other day. I was talking to my brother and saying that, and I know that you can relate to this as well, that we both have family members who are very 3D, who are who will preach that they are very Christian, which of course like means that they are all about the love. And I was saying to him, I was like, the thing is like, it's not that I cut people off, particularly family, because I don't like them or I hate them or whatever. That to me doesn't sit with my soul. That I'm not doing that as a way of punishing anybody. I'm not doing that because I'm not doing it because like I have resentment or bitterness. My soul has elevated past that. I'm doing it to protect myself so that I can fulfill my mission and my calling in life. And I can't have that type of conditional love pull down my vibration. And I know better. And I want people to understand when I say too that, like, I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone else, because I'm not better than anyone else. We as light workers, right, are not better. We are not better because we're star seeds or whatever. What I mean by that is we've already gone through this evolution and we know better. So I always remember the quote from Maya Angelou: when you know better, you do better. And so we just know, we've already gone,
the light bulb's gone off. right?
Yes,
Like the light bulb's gone off.
Yes.
And even in the sense of just being in this human body, the fact that you've awakened, like that's how I look at it. I'm like, this light switch went off. I can't turn that off now. What I know now, right? And I still don't know everything because I still have the human amnesia, but it's like what I know as of now, I can't turn that off. And you can't ignore that, you know that, right? You can't ignore everything that you've learned and continue on your path as if you didn't know it. You just can't.
No.
And I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah. And you hold space, right? You say, you know what, I'm going to, when something happens, when I hear something in my vicinity that is pure bigotry or prejudice or hatred or very conditionally, loving, I'm going to call it out. Yeah. And I'm going to say, you know what, I don't, like in the case with me and my family, anybody who is going to love me conditionally, that is not love to me. And I don't want that type of love. If you can't look at me and say, I love every part of you, and I don't need to understand you in order to have compassion for you, but I'm also not going to not honor your choices from whether it is who I want to love or how I want to be identified or whatever it might be. And also doing that for the outside world. Like, it is still very completely conditional to me. If you're going to turn to me and you're going to say, oh, I love every part of you and I'm going to honor what you want, but then you're going to turn around and you're going to somebody else out in the world you don't know, you're going to not honor them as a human being, as a soul, right? Like, then you don't love me. And you don't love me unconditionally, because loving me unconditionally means that you love others unconditionally as well. And not saying that you're always going to get it right. You're not always going to get it right, but you're going to be open to constructive criticism when you do screw up. You're going to apologize and you're going to try to do better. And you're going to try to do better by learning or unlearning, I should say, all of the crap that this human amnesia or this ridiculous patriarchal society has programmed into us.
And it's so programmed, right? Like deep programmed. And I think that's also hard too, is when you see that. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, and I'm looking around going like through these fresh eyes, and I'm like, oh, I see this. And then it's like, you don't see this? Like, and it's like, how do you not see this? And I think that's one of the hard things too, is like respecting and understanding. Like, I've really had to learn compassion for, my family members, or for people that I have to understand they're not, their light bulb hasn't gone off. And as frustrating as that, like at times, because I'm just like, obviously, and especially when you're learning it, like I just want to be like, tell everybody, right? Like I was like, did you know this? And you soon learn that, people start being like, because you're just changing the narrative, right? Like I started changing the narrative of who I am. But I've had to really work through holding compassion to understanding that their light bulb hasn't gone off, their light switch hasn't gone off, and I have to respect that that's where they're at, and as well as respect myself of where I'm at, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It makes this whole trying to figure out how to hack the system so that when we have to come back again to do this, that we like don't have the problem. I was talking, so I just had my birth chart read, because I've been on this whole, I feel like this whole week has been nothing but universe, starseed, whatever. Like,
I love it.
Celestial reading. I got my birth chart read. I, started a new journal that just happened to have a celestial map on it.
Yes.
I bought this like 6 months ago, y'all. It's ridiculous. And now I get to have this conversation. I've been geeking out on a variety of different like starseed stuff, just trying to like, figure it out. And like linking up with all of my like starseed guides and stuff, which like we're gonna have to talk about that, because I don't know how you feel, but I get like they don't like to meet anywhere where my energy would be conserved. They're like, no, we're not gonna meet you in your place of nature. No, we're not gonna meet you in the upper world. We're gonna meet you out into the universe somewhere and just float.
Oh
and
my gosh.
It's so far away that I like stop feeling my body.
Oh my gosh.
And
you need to talk to them, because we always meet in my place of nature. And like, and as you know, we've had our, you know, push and pull type of thing, right? But I'm like, so now I'm like, I like, or at least my one is, you know, respectful to kind of like meet me where I need to meet. I think, you know what, but I also think that things like that is what you can handle, right? Like, I think if he came at me, pulling me out to the, and I was feeling that way, it would have like, I would have been like, nah, not doing this.
Yep, can't do it.
Can't do this. I'm like, yep, yeah, this is too weird. You pushed me. So I'm like, I think, right, where it's like they're with you are like testing you to be like, no, you can handle this. Like,
God. I may just need to have a conversation with him and be like, yo, whatever you think I can handle. Like, I don't know. Because so I also have found too that they are like I love that yours is like respectful, because I feel like sometimes mine are like what? No, like, so I will be like telling, like, you know, I have to like pay my bills, right? Like I have to have a home. And they're like, what's a home? Like the universe is your home. And I'm like, bullshit. Like I'm still like, I'm
stubborn though. Like I'm stubborn, and I think my guide knows that. Like it is one of those where it's like, no, I get my back up where I'm like, you can't tell me what to do. So I think he's had to learn how to deal with me, because it's like, well, if he comes at it this way, then all of a sudden I'm like, no. So when I start pulling cards and it's the same theme, and I get the message and the message and the message, and I don't want, and I'm like, no, you can't tell me what to do. So I'm like,
you don't know my life or what I am here for.
I'm like, you come here and do this. Like, I'm telling you, you get to stay in this like planet of love and you know, tranquility, and it's just like, it's beautiful, and we just love each other. It's like, no, I've taken the ultimate mission. I am in this dense world, and it's like, you can go on my timeline. I swear, he's probably like,
he's like, I should have been the funny guide.
Yeah, he should have been the friend. Yeah, he should have been the funny, friendly guy. Because then I told him, like, sure, let's do it. But instead,
like now you're learning from him, and you're like, you know what? You are gonna be stoic and serious with me. Now I'm gonna be stoic and serious with you. This is
stand my ground.
I absolutely love it. I do. I think that this is. I need to take a page out of your book and be like, what the freak are you doing? Because I feel like the rest of my guides are very like respectful of like my pace and my time and stuff, and I get this sense of urgency from, and maybe I don't know if
they do have a sense. Yes, they do. I definitely, yes. That is something that I have felt. That is something I have heard from readings, that, you know, anytime someone taps into my main guide, it is like the message is always like, they're like, come on, we need you. Like, it's just urgency. But I'm also kind of like, well, I'm the one that's here. And I appreciate the urgency, and I take that into consideration, right? Like, obviously it's something that I'm like, okay. But then I'm also like, but this is my life, and I need to do, like, I'll keep that in mind, but I need to go at my pace. Because again, like, if you look at it, you know, like, say I was a Palladian my last life, and my guide, and we talked and everything like that. You're not here.
You're not here.
You're not here. You're not in this dense, like, Earth is a very hard planet. to live on. Like, it is full of lessons, and it is known around the galaxy that, you know, coming to Earth is the ultimate challenge, right?
Yes.
Is the ultimate challenge. So that's where I kind of look and I think, okay, so, you know, like my soul and his soul, you know, have conversed on the Palladian in the galaxy and all that stuff. But it's like, now my soul is in this dense 3D body, and you know, this is where it's kind of like, okay, I get it that you want this, but I'm dealing with the rest of it too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So yeah, it's kind of like I'm doing what I can as I can.
Yeah, trying to find that balance between, you know what, I can't do this work if I am not physically happy. Like, if this body isn't taken care of and isn't worked with and
have a roof over its head, all of it,
then it doesn't matter what my soul is like wanting to do. I absolutely need to be able to have this time and this space to be able to take care of myself. If this vessel is good, then I can do all of the work.
Absolutely.
And I am 100% in on the work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
And even just having understanding that, because like, you know, I know there's things that I am working through, right? And this is where it's part of like, I'm evolving as I go. So, you know, one of the things I'm working with is like self-doubt. You know, the fear of being judged, you know, that judgment. And so that's where I kind of look and I'm like, it's not like I'm like, no, I'm not doing this because I don't want to be judged, or it's like, no, I'm working on it. I'm doing it. May not be as fast as you want, but I'm moving forward with it. And that needs to be respected as well, right? Like, you know, I know as souls, we choose, everything is mapped out, right? We choose who our families are going to be. We choose what our body, what are the human vessel that we're going to take on, the human vessel that maybe has anxiety, the human vessel that is a people pleaser. We choose that because those are challenges that we have to work through, right? And so that's where it's just kind of like, and that's where I kind of look and I'm like, okay, like these are challenges that I've chosen to tackle. And I feel as long as I'm moving forward, then I'm progressing, right? And learning as I go. So it's like, and that's kind of like, that's my timeline. Right? Like, I'm like, I should just say to my guide, Allah, you should just come here and try this.
Like you do it. I'll be your guide and you do it.
Let's switch this next time and you'll see. Like he's probably already done it how many times and he's like, okay, I've been there, done that. I know what you're talking about. Suck it up.
So let's see. So we've talked about missions now. We've talked about types. We've talked about the fact that some of our starseeds just like have no respect for the human condition, which, you know, and I get it on some level. And we've talked about density and dimension here. I feel like there's so much, like when I think of work as a light worker, we don't realize like how much there is to actually dig into, and this starseeds as a category is exactly the same, that there's just so much within it. But like, how do we even think about learning it all, particularly when we come into this life totally unconscious?
Where it's like this human amnesia, right? And you're just like, but that's what I also find so fascinating about it, right? Is like it seems like this infinite knowledge infinite things to learn about. Like I just find like I'll crack into something and then something else comes and then I'm like, what's that? And I want to like dig into that. And when I found I had the 2 different starseed guides that was helping me, I then deep dived into what's Andromedan? What are they all about? What is a human hybrid that has Andromedan DNA? Like what's their character? Like I just deep dive into it. But I also want to know about the grays, right? I want to know about the grays. I want to know about the different
Yes.
species, that different civilizations that are out there, because it's absolutely fascinating. Like I've gone down, like just even understanding, like the spaceships that we see that have been shown in the sky and them coming and them helping, like I truly believe they have helped us for thousands and thousands of years, right? That these sightings, these sightings, I know that we're kind of programmed to be scared of them, or programmed to, like if a bunch of ships were to show up right now, our instinct is like, oh my God, we're under attack. And now, from where I'm coming from now, I'd be like, they're coming to help us. There's something that they're, because if they wanted to hurt us, this would have happened thousands and thousands of years ago, right?
They've been evolving. Exactly, like they've been evolving for millennia prior to us. Like, I mean, we had dinosaurs 65 million years ago. I mean, and what other, I think of it now of like, how else did it take 65 million years for dinosaurs to evolve in all of its, shapes and sizes? And yet, when you look at how fast humans evolved, how fast mammals evolved, it was not in the same, it doesn't make any sense. Like, and people will say, oh, well, it was source, it was creator. And I agree with that, but I don't think of it as in the same way. Like, I think it was because the creator had such forward thinking to like break itself into a bunch of soul pieces that went and like traveled the universe and evolved. The different souls evolved through different places and different times, and like that it was through that and them coming and helping, whether it was the reptilians messing around with the genetics and the DNA and helping the evolutionary process. Like how else do we, to me, it makes perfect sense. It doesn't.
Me too.
That we have not been doing this alone. That this is not an accident.
And that's the thing. I truly believe that Earth is like the different civilizations, the different, like the galaxy is very invested and interested in Earth. We are very, very unique here, right?
Yes.
And so they're very invested, and they're invested in helping humanity, understanding humanity, right? Like understanding like things that we do. And so, I truly believe that there are helpful neighbors. I believe that when we start to go off course and start to produce things that are dangerous for, the masses, that they intervene to be like, okay, like we gotta bring them back, right? Or they're gonna blow themselves up, so like, and that's the thing, like I feel like, they're constantly been helping us, constantly maybe moving us back into line if we're kind of going down a dark tunnel, helping progressing us with technology, like that, their technology is beyond, right? And again, I say there, but it's us.
Yes, exactly.
This is like they are us.
Guys, if your mind has not been blown already, understand right now.
Like we are
not separate from like when we talk, so it reminds me of the raw material, right? And so this is the raw as in RA material, and the raw material, for anybody who doesn't know, is a channeled message from the Venetian collective, and it was given given to a bunch of scientists who ended up then like writing it all down. And it's absolutely amazing. It is really talks about how we are one, and it goes so far beyond just that we are one with source and creator. Like, yes, we are, but it's like it like breaks it down into these like sections of like we are our ancestors. Like, I was thinking about this, that like one of my spirit guides is not only my ancestor, but is also me in a past life. Like, I am my own ancestor. And then thinking like, this is how we've had billions of people, but we probably only have a finite number of pieces of creator, right? Like, creator couldn't like, I mean, maybe creator did split itself infinitely, but I mean, like, we are the star seeds that are coming here to help us.
And that's like, and it's not like, oh, the aliens, oh, they, and it's like, and that's where it's like, you think that misconception is like, but your last life, you could have been that alien, right?
Yes.
Like, that's all, we're all connected. And it's funny because like, you know, I start to look at things like, you know, for instance, a giraffe, right? We accept a giraffe because a giraffe has been part of our reality. But when you look at a giraffe, that is an alien species. That is
fucking
a different,
weird.
Right? It's fucking weird. That is fucking weird when you look at a whale and you see how massive they are. Like, if you really look at it with fresh eyes, if all of a sudden that just showed up, right? And we'd be like,
you would be like, what is this?
What is that? And so I'm like, and so to me, I'm just like, guys, like, we have ETs living amongst us because we're all ETs, right? Like, you know, they're not the same as us. You know, the giraffe is, fucking weird. It's got a really long neck. And it's like, what is going on with that thing? And so, but it's because it's just like, it's accepted because it's been part of our reality, right? But it doesn't, we're still different from them. They're not the same species. And so that's where it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? Just because it looks different, right? And so, you know, and I could go down the rabbit hole with all of this. Like, I'm just so like,
you bring up a good point that I want to make sure that we touch on, and that is this idea of they versus us, right? And that of course leads us to the topic of fear, right? And people will say, I'm sure there might be some people who are going to listen to this and go, well, what about all of those people who have said that they have been abducted and that they were hurt? And so like, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this? Like, you know, I know that we've talked about the duality of starseeds, just as there is duality among humans and there is choice and free will among ETs as there is among humans. But how do you feel like we get past this, right? Like, they're not, you know, yes, they may come en masse, or they may continue to do what they're doing now, which is just kind of, you know, individualized. Some of them have certain agendas or things that they need to do or want to see. I think a lot of it is curiosity, but how do we deal with this idea of fear?
Yeah, and I think, you know, I definitely think the narrative has been made to fear, right? You look at the movies, everything, you know, we have been conditioned to automatically fear. So that is something that unfortunately is just going to be there. I think if you took away that narrative, that fear, and, you know, even the people like, absolutely, there's abductions. Absolutely. Now, but this is like, you know, I look at this as like, heck, like, I wouldn't care if I got abducted, because I look at that as like, they are either coming to somehow help my body or to help me ascend more, or understanding, like, I look at that as, if they're not coming to hurt me, because believe me, if they wanted to hurt me, they wouldn't send me back down in my body. right? I'd be dead,
Yes.
right? Like those, and so
Yep.
those people that have been abducted and have come back, I think maybe some of like, or if have, you know, if I've seen stories of like people with spaceship and it's the energy is too high for their physical being, right? For their body. And that can affect them and their body. But I truly believe that it's all in goodwill and curiosity and for our greater good, right?
Yes.
Like I do believe that that is kind of like the purpose of the abductions happening. I think it's, you know, it's part of the ascension process. You know, I could easily see you or I getting abducted if they're needing to upgrade our physical body to be able to continue doing the work that we're doing, right?
Yes.
But because that narrative's controlled, and this the narrative's been like, because you know, the people who run, like whoever's in, people who run and are in control and, you know, of the masses of us, right? They can't have, that is something that they can't control. And when you can't control something, what do? You infuse fear, because fear is going to control the masses.
Yes, and that is exactly it. Is just how do we control the information? How do we, and by we I mean the patriarchal system, right? I'm not gonna place this on men specifically, or because females are part of the patriarchal system. It's about making it so that there isn't a good balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and I think that it really is, it functions to limit ascension, soul ascension. And you know, we've got starseeds out there that have, and we talked about this, that have been here helping in ancient times to help facilitate understanding of the universe and the cosmos and all of it. And, you know, from the building of the various pyramids all across the world in relation to the stars, and
fascinating.
I mean, we haven't even started talking about the stargates and what that means and like how that works. We'll have to do a part 2, but but you know, it's just, it really does make me hopeful in some ways, knowing that they have been here, they've been helping us, they continue to help us, and once again, like you said, they meaning we have gone out there, we've decided to come back regardless of the fact that this is a ridiculous planet playground to be on,
especially right now. I'm like, it's just
in 2021, I was thinking,
how did I sign up for this?
I was like, what in the world was I thinking when I was like, let me come and like do all the things I'm supposed to do? Stupid.
So I'm just like, come on, like seriously. And I think that's probably why I push back to my God, because I'm like, seriously, you want to do this? Right? Like, this is heavy.
Right?
Jeez.
Just nonsense, just absolute nonsense is all that I think of it.
But I also look at that and I'm like, okay, so I'm obviously strong enough, right? I wouldn't have come, and I wouldn't have been part. We wouldn't have been part of this mission if we weren't strong enough to push past it, to hold that space and to continue forward, because it's a big feat, right? So raising vibrations during a time where fear is the top thing on everybody's mind, like it's just like we are infused with it, just shows how much that, you know, we are powerful enough that like, and that's where I just keep reminding reminding myself that on some days where it's like, this is hard, this is heavy, like how am I? And it's like, no, you're here for you wouldn't be here if you couldn't handle it. And I just keep trying to push through that and be like, you are part of the light that you need to stay strong to help, right? So, you know, it may suck and I may have my pity parties.
Right?
Totally. They have my pity party days where I'm just like, oh, and then I'm like, snap out of it, and then I'm back at it. Like, but yeah. So
we are all here because we can handle it. And I absolutely love that. Allie, I cannot thank you enough for doing this with me, for having this conversation about all of the starseeds and the ETs and the getting out there and all of the weirdness. I love you, and I'm so happy that you and I have met and get to do this life together. And just, man, you're so beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I was just so honored. I'm so honored that, all my craziness, that to be able to just talk about, it's just wonderful. So thank you.
I definitely feel like we did not get to everything. Would you be willing to come back and do a part 2 with me?
Yes. I could talk about this all day.
All right, my beautiful, beautiful friends. If anybody is interested in working with Allie, I highly suggest it. She is an amazing intuitive, like I said in the beginning. I will make sure that all of her information is down below in the description, and just work with her. If you are interested in your starseed lineage, if you're interested in just talking to her about just anything intuitive, anything light worker, anything extraterrestrial, she is the place to go. So I am so excited for you guys to listen to this. Thank you for sticking with us this far. And as always, see you next time for the next Breath of Life conversations. Bye, everyone. Bye, Allie.
Bye.